You came into trading thinking it would be different. You saw the screenshots, the lifestyle posts, the success stories, and you thought if you just learned enough, worked hard enough, stayed disciplined enough, you'd be making real money within a few months and maybe a year at most. And now, weeks or months later, you're sitting here frustrated, confused, maybe even angry because trading hasn't delivered what you thought it would. Your account isn't growing the way you imagined. You're working harder but not seeing the results, and you're starting to wonder if this whole thing was a mistake. Let me tell you something that might be hard to hear, but it's the truth. Trading is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It never was. And the moment you stop treating it like one is the moment everything starts to change. This video isn't about giving you hope through motivation. It's about giving you clarity through honesty. Because if you keep approaching trading like it's supposed to make you wealthy, fast, you're going to keep losing. Not because you're not smart enough or disciplined enough, but because you're playing the wrong game entirely. Most people enter trading with completely unrealistic expectations, and I'm not saying that to be condescending. I'm saying it because it's true. And those expectations are the #1 reason traders fail before they even have a chance to succeed. Think about how you found trading. Maybe you saw someone on Instagram posting profits. Maybe you watched a YouTube video with a catchy title about turning small accounts into big ones. Maybe someone in a Discord group told you they made thousands in a day. And all of that looked exciting. It looked accessible. It looked like if they could do it, you could too. But here's what you didn't see. You didn't see the years of work that came before those wins. You didn't see the blown accounts. You didn't see the months of break-even trading. You didn't see the psychological battles, the doubt, the frustration. You saw the highlight reel and you assumed that was the whole story. This isn't your fault. Social media is designed to show you the best moments. Traders post their wins, not their losses. They post their best days, not their worst weeks. They post the trades that worked, not the ones that stopped them out. And over time, this creates a distorted picture of what trading actually looks like. So you enter the game expecting fast results. You think if you just learn a strategy, follow some rules, and stay focused, you'll start making consistent money quickly. And when that doesn't happen, when you lose, when you have bad weeks, when your account isn't growing the way you thought it would, you start to panic. You start thinking something is wrong with you, or your strategy, or your discipline. You start switching methods. You start overtrading. You start taking risks you shouldn't take because you're trying to speed up a process that can't be sped up. And this is where most traders get stuck. They're stuck between the expectation they came in with and the reality they're experiencing. And instead of adjusting their expectations, they keep trying to force the reality to match the fantasy. That's the cycle that destroys accounts. If this sounds familiar, comment below. Because once you recognize this pattern, you can start to break it. Let me ask you something. If someone told you they were starting a business and expected to be profitable within 3 months, what would you think? You'd probably think they're being unrealistic, right? Because businesses take time. They require planning, investment, testing, adjustment. Most businesses don't turn a profit in the first year. Some take years to become sustainable. But for some reason, when it comes to trading, people expect different rules. They expect that if they just work hard and learn fast, they should be profitable almost immediately. And that disconnect is the problem. Trading is a business, not in some metaphorical, motivational sense. I mean, literally. You're managing capital, you're managing risk, you have expenses, you have overhead, you have profitable periods and unprofitable periods. You're making decisions under uncertainty with real financial consequences. That's a business, but most traders don't treat it that way. They treat it like a game or a side hustle or a way to make quick money. And because they're not treating it like a business, they're not approaching it with the structure, discipline, and patience that a business requires. Let me be specific. In a real business, you have a business plan. You know your costs, you know your expected revenue, you track your metrics, you review your performance regularly. You don't expect every single transaction to be profitable. You understand that some days or weeks will be slow, and that's okay because you're measuring success over a longer time frame. In trading, this means having a trading plan. Knowing your risk per trade, knowing your expected win rate and risk-reward ratio, tracking every trade, reviewing your performance weekly or monthly, understanding that not every trade will win, and that's not a failure. It's just part of the process. But most traders don't do this. They take trades based on how they feel. They risk inconsistent amounts, they don't track anything. They don't review. They just keep trading and hoping things will work out. And then they wonder why they're not making progress. Here's another business reality that traders avoid. Businesses have expenses. Marketing costs, operational costs, overhead. In trading, your expenses are your losses. They're the cost of doing business, and just like a business doesn't shut down after a bad quarter, you shouldn't fall apart after a losing streak. But because most traders are thinking short-term because they came in expecting quick profits, every loss feels like a failure. Every drawdown feels like proof that something is wrong. And that emotional reaction leads to bad decisions. Overtrading, revenge trading, increasing risk. All the things that turn manageable losses into account-destroying mistakes. If you've ever felt like you were gambling instead of trading, let me know in the comments, because that feeling is usually a sign that you're not treating this like a business. Let's talk about the psychological damage that comes from thinking trading is a get-rich-quick opportunity. Because this mindset doesn't just slow down your progress, it actively destroys it. When you expect fast results, you become impatient, and impatience in trading is lethal. It makes you take trades that don't meet your criteria because you feel like you're missing out. It makes you hold losing trades too long because you don't want to accept the loss. It makes you cut winning trades too early because you're afraid of giving back profit. Impatience also makes you overtrade. You sit in front of the charts, thinking, I need to make something happen today. So you force trades, you lower your standards, you convince yourself that marginal setups are good enough, and all of this chips away at your edge. There's also the emotional volatility that comes with this mindset. When you're expecting fast growth, every day feels like it matters too much. A good day makes you feel like you've finally figured it out. A bad day makes you feel like you're failing. You're on an emotional roller coaster, swinging between confidence and doubt, and that instability makes it impossible to execute consistently. I've seen traders who are genuinely skilled, who understand the technical side, completely fall apart psychologically because they can't handle the pace of real progress. They expected to be making thousands within months, and when that didn't happen, they started questioning everything: their strategy, their discipline, their intelligence, and that self-doubt became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Here's what happens. You take a few losses, you start doubting your strategy, you switch to something new. That doesn't work immediately either. You switch again. Now you're 3 months in and you've tried 5 different approaches and none of them have worked. But the problem was never the strategy. The problem was that you never gave anything enough time to work. You were expecting results on a timeline that doesn't exist. This is the psychological trap of get-rich-quick thinking. It makes you reactive instead of strategic. It makes you emotional instead of objective. It makes you focus on outcomes instead of process. And all of that guarantees failure. Now let me tell you how profitable traders actually think. They don't think in days or weeks, they think in years. Not because they're patient saints, but because they understand how skill development and edge realization actually work. When a profitable trader looks at their trading, they're not asking, did I make money today? They're asking, did I follow my process today? Did I execute according to my plan? Did I make the decisions I was supposed to make? Because they know that if they focus on process, the results will take care of themselves over time. They also understand compounding, not in the hyped-up turn $100 into $10,000 way you see on social media. Real compounding, slow, consistent growth over extended periods. They know that if they can average even modest returns consistently, month after month, year after year, that compounds into something significant. But here's the part most people don't want to hear. Compounding requires time. It requires repetition. It requires you to keep doing the same boring thing over and over again without dramatic results for a long time. And most traders can't tolerate that. They get bored. They feel like they're not progressing. They start looking for something more exciting. This is why so many traders fail right before they would have succeeded. They were on the verge of consistency, but because the progress was slow and boring, they gave up. They thought something was wrong. They thought they needed to try something different. But what they actually needed was to keep doing what they were doing for longer. Profitable traders also think in terms of repetition. They know that edge only reveals itself over a large sample size. 1 trade means nothing. 10 trades mean nothing. Even 50 trades might not be enough. You need hundreds of executions before you can say with confidence whether your approach actually works. But most traders don't have the patience for that. They want to know after 20 trades if their strategy is good. And when those 20 trades don't produce the results they expected, they switch. They never get to the sample size where edge becomes visible. Here's another thing profitable traders understand. Boredom is a feature, not a bug. If your trading feels exciting all the time, you're probably doing something wrong. Trading should be routine. It should be methodical. It should feel, honestly, kind of boring most of the time. Because boring means you're following a process. Boring means you're not making impulsive decisions. Boring means you're doing what you're supposed to do. But traders who came in expecting excitement can't handle boring. They need action. They need stimulation. And that need drives them to overtrade, to force setups, to take risks they shouldn't take. All because they can't sit with the discomfort of doing nothing. If you've ever felt guilty for not trading, even when there were no good setups, comment below. That guilt is a sign you're still thinking short-term. So, what actually changes when you start treating trading like a business instead of a get-rich-quick scheme? Everything. First, you start planning. You don't just jump into trades based on what you feel in the moment. You have a trading plan. You know your criteria. You know your risk. Management rules. You know what you're looking for and what you're avoiding. And you follow that plan regardless of how you feel. This sounds simple, but most traders don't do it. They have loose ideas about what they should do, but no actual structure. And when you don't have structure, emotion fills the gap. You make decisions based on fear, greed, boredom, frustration. And those decisions are almost always wrong. Second, you start tracking everything. Every trade, every decision, every emotional state. Because if you're running a business, you need data. You need to know what's working and what isn't. You need to see your patterns. You need to measure your performance objectively. Most traders avoid this because they don't want to confront their mistakes. They don't want to see how many bad trades they're taking, or how often they're breaking their rules, or how much their emotions are influencing their decisions. But without that data, you can't improve. You're just guessing. Third, you start reviewing your performance regularly. Not just looking at your P&L, but actually analyzing your execution. Did you follow your plan? Where did you deviate? Why did you deviate? What patterns are you repeating? What needs to change? This is what separates traders who improve from traders who stay stuck. The ones who improve are constantly reviewing, adjusting, refining. They're treating their trading like a business that needs ongoing management and optimization. Fourth, you develop emotional neutrality. When you treat trading like a business, individual trades stop mattering so much. A loss is just a cost of doing business. A win is just revenue. Neither one defines you, neither one changes your approach. This neutrality is what allows you to stay consistent. You're not riding an emotional wave. You're not swinging between overconfidence and despair. You're just executing your process day after day, regardless of short-term results. And fifth, you become accountable. Not to some external authority, but to yourself. You're running a business, and that means you're responsible for the results. You can't blame the market. You can't blame other traders. You can't blame luck. You have to own your decisions and learn from them. This level of accountability is uncomfortable, but it's also empowering, because if you're responsible for your results, that means you have the power to change them. Now, I want to talk about something that most traders misunderstand: slow progress. When your trading progress is slow, when you're not seeing dramatic growth, when it feels like you're barely moving forward, most traders interpret that as failure. They think something is wrong. They think they need to change something, try something different, work harder, but actually slow progress is often a good sign. It means you're building real skill, not getting lucky. It means you're developing consistency, not chasing wins. It means you're learning to trade, not learning to gamble. Think about it. If your account doubles quickly, what does that tell you? It might mean you got lucky. It might mean you took excessive risk. It might mean you caught a good market condition. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have a sustainable edge. But if your account grows slowly and steadily over months, if you're consistently executing your process and seeing gradual improvement, that's actually more reliable. That suggests you're doing something real, something repeatable, something that can last. The problem is that slow progress doesn't feel good. It doesn't give you the validation you're looking for. It doesn't match the timeline you came in with. So you start doubting yourself. You start thinking you should be further along by now. But here's the truth. If you're still here, if you haven't blown up your account, if you're learning from your mistakes and gradually improving your execution, you're doing better than most. Because most traders don't make it this far. They quit, or they blow up, or they keep making the same mistakes indefinitely. Slow progress means you're surviving. And in trading, survival is the first milestone. If you can survive long enough to develop real skill, to build consistency, to understand your psychology, you've already beaten most of the competition. So if your progress feels slow, don't panic. Don't change everything. Don't start taking bigger risks to try to speed things up. Just keep doing the work. Keep following your process. Keep learning. Keep showing up. Because that's what actually leads to long-term success. If you're someone who's been at this for a while and progress feels frustratingly slow, let me know in the comments. You're not alone, and you're not failing. Let me tell you what happens to traders who never make this shift. Traders who keep treating trading like a get-rich-quick opportunity instead of a business. They stay stuck. They keep switching strategies. They keep overtrading. They keep taking excessive risk. They keep having the same emotional reactions to wins and losses. They keep starting over every few months. And eventually they quit. Not because they weren't capable, but because they were playing the wrong game. I've seen this happen so many times. Talented people, intelligent people, hard-working people who just couldn't let go of the expectation that trading should make them wealthy quickly. And that expectation sabotaged everything they did. But I've also seen the opposite. I've seen traders who came in with the same unrealistic expectations, but at some point they made the shift. They stopped expecting fast results. They stopped comparing themselves to social media posts. They stopped treating every trade like it had to work. They started thinking long-term. They started focusing on process. They started treating trading like the serious business it is. And those traders gradually, over time, started to see real progress. Not dramatic transformations, not overnight success, just steady, sustainable improvement. And that improvement compounded. And eventually they became the kind of traders they wanted to be. The difference wasn't talent, it wasn't luck, it was mindset. It was the willingness to let go of the fantasy and embrace the reality. So here's what I want you to take from this video. Trading is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a skill that takes years to develop. It's a business that requires structure, discipline, and patience. It's a psychological challenge that will expose every weakness you have. If you came into trading expecting fast money, you need to adjust that expectation now. Not because I'm trying to discourage you, but because holding on to that expectation will destroy your progress. You need to start thinking in years, not months. You need to start focusing on process, not outcomes. You need to start treating every trade as part of a larger sample, not as an individual event that defines your worth. You need to stop comparing yourself to social media highlight reels. Stop switching strategies every time something doesn't work immediately. Stop overtrading because you feel like you need to make something happen. Stop taking excessive risk because you're impatient. Start planning. Start tracking. Start reviewing. Start building the structure and discipline that real businesses require. Start measuring yourself on execution, not results. Start accepting that real progress is slow, and that's okay. Because here's the truth. If you can make this shift, if you can let go of the get-rich-quick mentality and embrace the long-term reality of trading, you have a real chance. Not a guarantee, not a promise, but a real chance. And that's more than most traders ever give themselves. If this video helped you see trading differently, if it challenged something you needed to hear, I'd appreciate if you subscribed. This channel exists to give you the honest perspective that most trading content won't. No hype, no promises, just the truth about what trading actually requires. And if you're someone who's been struggling with impatience, with unrealistic expectations, with the frustration of slow progress, leave a comment. Let me know where you're at, because sometimes just saying it out loud helps you see it more clearly. Trading is hard. It takes time. It requires you to think differently than most people are willing to think. But if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to treat this like the serious long-term business it is, you can build something real. This is Trader's Mental Edge, where trading starts in the mind.